Hey ya friends! Today I want to explain something that many people get confused about. It's a little different and it may even be a little controversial for some of you who are new to this channel. You might notice that I don't talk a lot about specific diagnoses. I do mention mast cell activation syndrome a lot, and I do mention things like dysautonomia and chronic fatigue, but I tend not to go into details about other things like Hashimoto's or endometriosis or IBS. And some people will write me and say, you're talking about mast cell activation syndrome, but I also have Hashimoto's, or I also have PMDD, or I also have Crohn's disease. Can you help me with those also? The reason I don't mention a lot of those other conditions on this channel, even though they are very real, very painful conditions that I do support people with every day, is that diagnoses are not super important. I know that might sound really wild for me to say, but you have to understand that what diagnoses really are essentially labels. They're a cluster of symptoms that have been grouped together because they often come together, and so they're put under a name. And this makes it easy for doctors to be able to hear a series of symptoms, put it down on a label in a diagnostic code, and then be able to bill insurance and match it to a specific medication regimen. Really, that's it. That's the purpose of diagnosis, is to slap a label on symptoms that usually come together to make it easier for doctors to bill insurance and prescribe meds. What they don't help us do is find out why you have these symptoms. They don't tell us what is going wrong with you at the root level. So for example, two people could have the same diagnosis. So for example, two people could have endometriosis, but completely different root causes. Endometriosis tends to be related to an overload of estrogen that is causing all of these really painful hormonal symptoms. But maybe that overload of estrogen is coming from gut dysbiosis because there are certain bacteria that produce hormone mimicking compounds, and that is disrupting your hormonal system. Or maybe someone else, maybe they have a little gut dysbiosis, but that's not actually the main thing going on with them. Maybe they have had a huge amount of exposure to plastics that their lymph system has not been able to move out. And these compounds are estrogen mimicking as well. And so really supporting their detox pathways and lymph flow is going to be more effective to them. So two people with endometriosis, but they find that two different focused protocols actually work better for their recovery. The opposite thing can happen too. There can be two people with two totally different diagnoses. For example, one person might be diagnosed with POTS, and one person might be diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Now, they both are focused on the nervous system, and you might go see a neurologist for both of them, but that neurologist is going to give very different medications to help, lessen the symptoms. But to get to the root cause, maybe both those people have critical B vitamin deficiencies coming from underlying gut dysbiosis. And so even though the two people have different symptoms and different diagnoses, the root cause protocol for both of those people is the same. They both need to rebalance the gut microbiome and do high dose B vitamin supplementation. Now, doctors miss these phenomena because they are so specialized. Western medicine is entirely built on specialization. So you probably have gone to the endocrinologist if you have a thyroid issue, you've gone to a GI doc if you have digestive issues, you've gone to a neurologist if you have headaches, etc., etc. Now this does work beautifully if you end up needing surgery for a very serious and acute problem. In these cases, we want someone who is highly specialized and very precise at what they do. But for most cases of chronic illness, that model just falls apart. Because chronic illness almost never happens in one isolated system. It's about systemic inflammation affecting multiple systems all at once. And what we need to do is find the root cause of that systemic inflammation. Now, Western medicine treats body like a machine. And I'm here to tell you the body isn't a machine. Your body doesn't just break down in one place and just needs that one part fixed. It's more like an ecosystem. It's dynamic, it's adaptive, it's deeply interconnected. I love systems theory. This is a model that is used to explain these kind of phenomenon. They happen in ecosystems, they happen in solar systems, they happen in brains, and they happen in our bodies. It means that the sum of the parts, the results of all these systems interacting with each other, cannot be entirely explained by breaking down each component of each part in the system. There are things called emergent phenomenon, things that arise that are more than the sum of the parts. We must understand this in order to become fully invested in a true root cause approach. So we need to stop treating chronic symptoms using this broken part model. We miss the bigger picture. That's why people will end up with a separate protocol for their thyroid, for their gut, for their anxiety, for their skin. They'll keep looking for specialists or looking for a clinician that specializes in a specific body system. This even happens in the holistic medicine world. Because someone has holistic in their title or in their description in their Instagram bio does not necessarily mean that they're actually using a holistic perspective. If someone is telling you you need to do different things for your skin, your anxiety, your gut, your thyroid, they are still using this Western medicine broken parts perspective. All of those symptoms are telling a story. They're speaking together about the same root imbalances, and that's what we need to focus on. So what are these true root imbalances? I always like to explain it as 3 primary core systems. These 3 systems, when they become imbalanced, are going to start causing symptoms in every other part of the body. So these are really at the bottom. They are at the root of most, if not all, chronic illness. This is the liver, or really the whole complex of detoxification systems in the body. The gut, and really our entire microbiome going on through our whole body, and the nervous system, but really the whole HPA, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So I often discuss this in shorthand as the liver-gut-brain axis, and that really helps my clients see this in a more cohesive way. So let's talk about the gut first and how this is connected to the liver and the brain. This is really the front line of your immune system. Our immune system is primarily in the lymphatic tissue, in the lining of the gut, and it's modulated by the bacterial populations there. The gut is really unique in that it separates the outside of the body from the inside of your body, because really the gut is a tube that goes from one side of your body to the other. And so for optimal health, we must have our gut lining intact to separate outside from inside. And we also must have a balance of the trillions of bacteria and other microbes. So we can get leaky gut, we can get an imbalanced gut microbiome. Usually those 2 things come together. And then we get toxins leaking into the body. The immune system starts over or under responding to threats. And this is how we get all our immune system dysregulation. But also, a lot of our neurotransmitters and hormones are produced in the gut. And if they are not being produced correctly, they will signal a threat to the nervous system, influencing that HPA axis. Now, how does this relate to the liver? Well, your liver is your main detoxifier. It's really working hard 24/7. But when the gut gets compromised, the liver might get overwhelmed trying to clean up the mess. Remember, when the gut gets imbalanced and the gut starts to leak, toxins and other compounds are going to spill into the rest of the body, and the liver is going to have a bigger job. So those toxins that spill over and are not getting taken care of by the liver will go into delicate tissues like collagen and nervous tissue. And this creates havoc on the nervous system, the joints, and other delicate tissues. You can see how this now relates to collagen disorders. But what about the brain and nervous system? Well, remember that the toxins from the gut that are not cleaned up by the liver can actually reach your brain, right? They might embed into nervous tissue, and this is going to change how your hormones produce, how your mood is, and how hair trigger your stress response is. But at the same time, even aside from our internal toxicity, experiences we have in life of high stress or trauma that's been unresolved will shut down your detox pathways and your digestion because your body is in survival mode and it's not worried about detoxing or digesting. It's worried about a perceived threat that is immediately in your environment, whether it's objectively still there or not. So you can see how this becomes a really vicious cycle. So this is why healing needs to be whole body healing. In my experience, you really can't just fix the gut. You can't just detox. You can't just regulate the nervous system. Now, sometimes with more mild cases, people can intervene in one area. They can just add 1 or 2 healthy practices and the whole system just kind of rebalances. That's great. If that's working for you, that's a place to start. But if you're watching this video, it probably hasn't been enough, right? And so my recommendation is to work with all 3 simultaneously. Really recognize the role of the liver, gut, brain axis in your life. So this is the real solution, addressing these foundational imbalances in the gut, liver, and nervous system. And amazing things will start to happen. Your inflammation drops, your detox pathways open, your hormones start to rebalance, and symptoms start to fade. Even multiple symptoms that you maybe didn't really connect as being related will just start to disappear at once. It's incredible how this happens. A true root cause approach does not give you 5 separate protocols. It gives you one clear path, a set of cohesive practices that supports the whole ecosystem of your body simultaneously. So yes, you may have these different diagnoses. You may have Hashimoto's, you may have mast cell activation syndrome, you may have endometriosis, you may have generalized anxiety disorder, but those names are just labels. They're just surface markers. You're not broken in those 4 different places. You're just inflamed at the root and it's coming out in all those different ways. You can heal if you give yourself the right foundation. So if you're interested in going deeper with this kind of approach, I would love you to join my community. We work with these root systems simply, powerfully, and together. Thank you for watching. If this helps shift your perspective a little bit, give it a like, share it with someone who maybe needs to hear this. I promise you your body wants to heal. We just have to give it the right support.